teenage thrill seeker. Really want to go out and get a thrill. Let him go up to the northwest and find a grizzly bear, a polar bear, brown bear. They'll get this thing. Cleanse the soul.
Cleanse the soul! Let's go hunt, boys. Feel it. I got the spirit. I got the attitude. Hey, Fred. Got the Wisconsin blood brothers out there. Hey, Dan. Deer. And deer hunting. Roy Case. Blood brothers. Charles Alzheimer. Fred Bear. Fred Bear. Fred Bear. In the Wisconsin wind, he's still alive.
Okay, we do not need an introduction. If you see that smiling face looking back at you, thank you, sir, for joining us.
Yes, back at you, Dad. We celebrate truth, logic, common sense, and God's miraculous science as resource stewards and conservationists. We are such radicals.
Such radicals, and I just got to see you play for, I don't know how,
They say 30,000. Somebody said 30,000 people. We set an attendance record, more importantly, a beer sales record and a merchandise sales record. In 2025, say glory, glory, hallelujah. With, by the way, all those people sang Fred Bear with me. I mean, did the earth not move, Dan?
The earth moved. David just showed the clip here at the intro. It was amazing in Waukesha, Wisconsin last Friday. And you've got a couple more shows coming up here, I believe, in Michigan, right?
Yeah, we do 7 nights in a row. We do Lexington, Michigan, 2 nights sold out. And then we do Saginaw, Michigan, sold out. Then we do 2 nights in Ludington, Michigan, sold out. Then we do Paw Paw, Michigan. And then we do Freedom Hill in Detroit on the 31st of August. But here it is. I'm not touring because I come home every night. That's why I was able to play Wisconsin, because I get to come home every night to Shemaine and the dog. So I don't tour, but I still rock and roll like a maniac.
It's awesome. And the other thing I want to mention here is the new song collaboration that just came out. We're going to get to the point here, people. Just wait 1 minute. The new song collaboration you have, What Would Charlie Daniels Do? Tell us about that.
Well, you know, I have a lot of great musical celebrating friends in the industry. And Ira Dean and I did a benefit concert down in Naples, Florida after the hurricane. And I met him for the first time. And he was a huge fan of killer Nugent rock and roll. Who's not? And but he was a songwriter for a bunch of very successful country artists. In fact, he wrote one of the greatest songs in the world with Aaron Lewis, Am I the Only One? If people haven't heard the song by Aaron Lewis, Am I the Only One? It resonates with freedom and individuality and standing good against evil. So when I heard that song and that Ira had written that with Aaron Lewis, I went, boy, this guy's got a great touch, a real connection with the heartthrob of American freedom and self-government. And so we hit it off, and he was inspired by Charlie Daniels, as we all were, because Charlie always stood up. He really always stood up as the culture war was first fermenting and political correctness was becoming as toxic as can be, just rampant dishonesty. So I did Charlie Daniels volunteer jams, charity events, many, many years in a row. And Ira said he wrote a song, What Would Charlie Daniels Do? And because he loves that standing up, that we the people standing up, and he knows that's what I've dedicated my life to. So he asked if I would play a Gibson guitar solo on it. And I went, hell yes, what would Charlie Daniels do? I don't even care what the song sounds like, because if Ira Dean's songwriting credentials comes through with this song celebrating the great Charlie Daniels, I knew it would be a winner. And it became #1. And we filmed the whole thing at Spirit Wild Ranch in Texas, standing on top of my fire-breathing Ford Bronco. And I unleashed a rhythm and blues guitar solo on What what some people are calling a country song, but it's actually an American street song. And I played guitar on it. It's number one
Number
right
one
now.
on iTunes. Awesome song. Thank you very much. And you guys can check that out. We'll put the link in the comments. This is an abbreviated podcast because Ted is very busy, as you can tell right now, as always. But there's something that you and I have talked about many times over the past couple of years, and it is about giving credit where credit is due for what we consider the man who started bow hunting in America for whitetails specifically. And lo and behold, that man was right here in my home state of Wisconsin, Roy Case from Racine, Wisconsin.
Well, I know that the impact that the mystical flight of the arrow, especially as promoted and celebrated in a visible public relations fashion like Fred Bear, it has guided my happy American dream equally as my guitar, God, family, country, entrepreneur, rugged individualism, freedom, all the important components to the ultimate quality of life can really be summarized in how we put our arrow in the desirable bullseye or vitals of tonight's dinner. And Fred Bear had such an impact on so many of us. I became aware probably in the early 1960s that there was a man in Wisconsin that was equally as important and influential in the great hunting tradition of Wisconsin, because Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the top conservation states in the world. Roy Case was not given his just due. So I called the Wisconsin Bowhunters, which I'm a proud life member of. In fact, I celebrated on stage in Wisconsin every time I performed there, because I think people should be a member of their state conservation organizations, especially when it comes to archery and bow hunting. And I'd like to see what we have accomplished for Fred Bear in Michigan. We have this beautiful statue and an annual Fred Bear Day. Wisconsin, you must pursue accomplishing what we did in Michigan for Fred Bear for the great Roy Case. There should be a Roy Case Day every year, maybe on his birthday, like we do Michigan March 5th for Fred. There should be a Roy Case Day every year in Wisconsin, and ultimately there should be a statue to maximize the importance of being down to earth, grounded, one with God's miraculous renewable creation, ultimately accomplished by the higher level of awareness of bow hunting. That's really what we're talking about here. So Roy Case, Wisconsin Bowhunters, and all my friends in Wisconsin, Dan Schmidt and I, Deer and Deer Hunting Magazine, we're putting our heart and soul into creating a Roy Case Day in Wisconsin. Aren't we, Dan?
We're doing it, and I think this is something with national significance. I dug into this, which I did not know until, I'm going to admit this right now. You probably knew this. I did not. Do you know who Roy Case's grandpa was?
I read it in the book, but I don't recall the name.
J.I. Case, which is now Case IH, tractors. His grandfather invented the tractor.
Yes,
in Racine, Wisconsin. And what I find fascinating is, I'm going to go through this really quick because you're going to get a kick at the end of this. 1842, Jerome Case starts making threshing machines in Wisconsin. Before that, you had to do it by hand. Now they did it with a horse.
I've done it by hand.
Well, he invented the first thing that did it with a horse. 1869, the first steam engine threshing machine. Wow. 1888, his grandson, Roy, is born. And by the way, Roy's name was his mom's maiden name. His mom's maiden name was Roy.
Wow.
So they named him Roy Case. 1892, his grandpa makes the first gasoline-powered tractor in America.
Wow.
1928. Now this grandson is now 40 years old. He's eaten up with archery. He's making his own bows. He's making his own broadheads. 1929, he reads an article about archery. 1930, he writes a letter to what is now the Wisconsin DNR, says, I want to hunt deer with a bow and arrow. And he kills a spike buck one day, December 6th, one day before my birthday, December 6th, 1930. Now you get to the state. Guess who's involved with the state? Fred Bear, I'm sorry, Aldo Leopold is at the Wisconsin, what is now the DNR. And Roy says we should have a modern archery season. Aldo Leopold says yes. Fred Bear is in your hometown of Detroit making parts in the auto industry. He says, I want part of this.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. So you have Roy Case, Aldo Leopold, and Fred Bear. And then 1934 was the first season. And I know Fred participated in it. Roy participated in it. One deer was killed, and it was Roy's buddy who killed that deer.
I think what you're outlining here is fascinating, and the Wisconsin bow hunters should be dedicated to educate the people of Wisconsin, the conservation families of Wisconsin, all the hunters, all the outdoorsmen, all the conservation participants in Wisconsin, that it's not out of the ordinary, that an entrepreneur, a visionary, Fred Bear was a visionary, Aldo Leopold, visionary for conservation, when the standard operating procedure of the world was to pretty much rape the hills for renewable resources. What they did to the passenger pigeon and the buffalo, even though the passenger pigeon died because it was a flock bird and it was a virus, we didn't shoot them all. And the buffalo was a government program to destroy the Indians' support system. Being that as it may, these visionaries like Roy Case and Fred Bear and Aldo Leopold and Hornady and Teddy Roosevelt, they were not only just conservation, higher level of awareness visionaries, they were successful entrepreneurs in their other given crafts that were so excited and so driven and so inspired by that inescapable higher level of awareness hunting with a bow, because it's a short range weapon. And remember, this was an era when Roy Weatherby was developing ballistic coefficients far superior to the old 30-30 and 32 Winchester for longer range accuracy and killing game for the table at longer range. Guys like Roy Case and Fred Bear and Ben Pearson and Howard Hill and Doug Walker and Bruce Gilpin and George Nichols and Claude Pollington, I could name hundreds of them. They went, no, wait a minute. Once I get to become a good marksman with my Model 94 Winchester 30-30, it's a gimme. If I see the deer, I can kill it, which is awesome. I love that. I did that with a squirrel this morning. But when they started with the archery, because it does consume you, because it demands all your gifts from God to be coordinated, hand-eye, breathing, lung control, brain control, trigger control, grip control, oneness with the history of Zen, history of the martial arts of the mystical flight of the arrow. Once you pursue it, it will get you. You will want to become the life path of the arrow. So Roy Case and Fred Bear and Howard Hill and Doug Walker, the Western bow hunter, and so many others, they became so obsessed with it that they saw that there was a more fulfilling understanding of your role and your conservation responsibilities to the earth, to God's miracle, that your lessons learned with the bow and arrow far exceeded the relationship of long-range shooting. Again, I'm a huge fan of long-range shooting. I think marksmanship is all discipline and focus and patience and all the ultimate qualities of an individual. But it's maximized by the thousands when it comes to archery and bow hunting, because you're looking the critter in the eye and you feel a deep sense of morality to be sure that you are so proficient that you don't experience the heartbreak, the trauma of wounding an animal. And that's really the lesson of Roy Case, Fred Bear, Howard Hill, Claude Pollington, Ben Pearson, who I communicated with. I communicated with all these guys before they died. So our goal, I think, if I may, Dan Schmidt, let's double the participation in bow hunting in America. We'll start with Wisconsin and Michigan. I'm going to be on the phone with Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, who we finally got to end the insane ban on Sunday hunting. That's what I do every day. That's what Hunter Nation does every day. So Josh Shapiro, who's a Democrat, is coming on my Real America's Voice today, and I'm going to salute him. He already called me. After he signed the law to get rid of the Sunday hunting ban, which is one of the most bizarre concepts a human could possibly grapple with, that a man can tell you during November, you can't hunt half the weekend. It's just so offensive on every level. So that's the ultimate goal of Roy Case with his early archery season, which the Michigan DNR has destroyed in Michigan. Now the guns go off first. Well, it's supposed to be a gentle entry into the season of harvest with a quiet archery season via Roy Case, initiated in Wisconsin first, and Fred Bear in Michigan right in that same era. So Roy Case Day in Wisconsin. Am I not the only one who's ever got on stage and celebrated Roy Case? I think I'm the only one.
You are the only one. I would say it's safe to say that is a fact. And I know we could talk for a long time on this. One thing I found absolutely fascinating is he handmade every one of his arrows to guess what weight to hunt with.
I'm going to say probably 600 grains, because the Port Orford cedar arrows I used to buy from George Nichols, who made Fred Bear's arrows, the heavier arrows, the footed shaft.
That's what I was just reading about.
The footed shaft, where they married a heavier front forward of center before technology entered the scheme. They were between 500 and 600 grains, I do believe.
That's where they were. And every single one was the same, handmade in 1928. I just can't wrap my head around. I know you have some there.
Yeah, I've got some here. I'll tell you what. Here's one of a kind. Here is an arrow that Howard Hill gave me. Oh my gosh! Look at this I got goosebumps. Do you see the goosebumps? I could shave them, by the way, with the Howard Hill. I just sharpened this. This is given to me by Howard Hill. He gave me a dozen of these, Dan. That's Howard Hill's elephant and rhino broadhead, which is not unlike the Hillbree, which had a plastic ferrule, and the Wisconsin MA2 and MA3, and then the three-blade bodkin. I've got them all here. I still hunt with bear razor heads. So this is a Howard Hill arrow. And it's probably 600 grains with that hard helical, heavy, high-profile fletch. But yeah, this is a great history. And I think thanks to the Wisconsin bow hunters and the different state bow hunting organizations, because they do have exhibits, but unfortunately, they're preaching to an ever-reduced choir. I think if we really got the word out, like I do with my rock and roll, and Fred Bear thanked me for that, and you've thanked me for that, I always celebrate being clean and sober, which is a demand to get close to game with a bow and arrow. You're never going to kill a deer if you're drunk or stoned with a bow and arrow. So these are important quality of life cocktails that ultimately are optimized by the discipline of the mystical flight of the arrow and the moral conscientiousness of killing the game cleanly and being the master of stealth, awareness, respect and reverence for God's creation, and taking that gift of venison with all your heart and soul, the best that you can be. I think I just summarized the very lifestyle of bow hunting.
Perfect. And that is right on cue. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. People, you can go to tednugent.com, find out more about what we're talking about here, deeranddeerhunting.com, but also to check out those upcoming tour dates, which I believe are all coming up within the next 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, the last week of August is going to be a firestorm of real soul music, I promise.
Is that it then, or you still got more?
No, I got a bunch of gigs. I'm playing my birthday in Texas at the Rattlesnake Roadhouse. There's like 1,000 people, and just a maniac old school rock and roll party with John Kutz on drums and Johnny Big on bass guitar. We got Jason Hartless on drums for the Michigan run. No, I'm still doing gigs. We're playing Billy Bob's in Fort Worth in January. We're doing in Ardmore, Oklahoma in January. So I do gigs where I can fly home every night, because I will never stay a night in a hotel the rest of my life.
Bless your heart. I wish I could say that, but I can't. Awesome. Thank you, sir, very much.
God bless you, Dan. Roy Case Day in Wisconsin every year. Let's do this.
We're going to pick out a date. For Ted Nugent, I am Dan Schmidt. Thank you for joining us for Deer Talk Now special edition here. Again, check it out. Check his stuff out at tednugent.com and check our stuff out at deeranddeerhunting.com. For Ted Nugent, David Gillane, I am Dan Schmidt. We will catch you next Thursday for another brand new episode of Deer Talk Now.
And now, time for the encore.
Good stuff, Dan. Thank you, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. That's some good stuff. That's really different. What we just did is the job of the industry.
I wanted to read this on air, but I got to read this to you. This was from Roy's first first magazine that he was reading. I don't know who the writer was. I am afraid the general use of manufactured steel in bows will eliminate archery from the realm of genuine sport.
Whoa. But here, let me
use steel in anything related to archery. Well, that's it. That's it.
That's just silliness.
Now fast forward to 2025, we're having the same argument.
We got to be very careful of what we translate as pure. You know what's pure? My state-of-the-art Matthews bow, my state-of-the-art carbon arrow, my perfectly technical helical vanes, a lighted nock to optimize the visibility of the mystical flight of the arrow. And you know what I have to do to kill a deer? The exact same thing an Apache had to do in 1400. I got to know my position and my presence and my belonging in the deer's world. I have to use stealth and patience and ultimate level of awareness, right place, right time, use the wind, stay out of the sun, move as little as possible, and enter the deer zone with reverence, regardless of the technology in my hand.
Awesome. I hope you're still rolling.
Of course.
Okay. We know it's never the end until that screen goes black.
All right, man. I'm out of here. I'm going to do Rev now. See you, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was awesome.